That music was such a game changer, because it fires me up every single time. My name's Liam. I'm one of the hustle brothers here. I'm here with my two other good friends, Reece and Mark. Dylan is going to join us eventually. But guys, how are we getting on today?
Yeah, doing pretty well. It's very hot over here at the moment. We're not used to it, and I don't think we're built for the heat over in England. So, it's been a difficult day and slightly hanging off yesterday as well. So, all of that to deal with. What about you, Mark? How are you getting on?
I'm getting along a lot better than last week. I remember last week I was sitting outside in a hangar, and today I'm in my buddy's hangar, which is climate controlled. So I'm underneath the air conditioning, and so I'm doing real well.
Mark, that actually excites me. That's an engine behind you there. Give us a quick tour of that hangar, please.
Oh, you want to see it real quick? All right.
Oh, yeah. I have to see it, brother.
All right. So first of all, I got to introduce my good friend. This is Jerry Stimple. Jerry, you're live.
How are we getting on, mate?
Oh, all the good-looking women.
All the good-looking women are watching. Yeah. So, Jerry owns this hangar, and he owns all of the contents in it as well. So, one of them, the first one, is this airplane that he's building. This is an experimental. It's a Glass Air 3. It'll do about 200 and probably 40 miles per hour once it's all said and built. Got a 6-cylinder Lycoming engine, and as you can see, it's still in the build phase, but he's almost done with it. And then this here is a Beechcraft Bonanza that Jerry just bought. What year is this, Jerry? 78? 76. So like 1976. I mean, imagine what a car would look like, in the 76.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful airplane, all updated avionics. It basically it flies itself. And then this is Jerry's other experimental, and it's a Lancer. Lancer and Glass Air were two competitors in the 1970s and 80s. So this is a carbon fiber build, a carbon fiber airplane. The fuselage is carbon fiber. Also has a 310 horsepower motor, and this does about 250 miles an hour. We did a whole avionics job on it a few years ago. Actually, I'll pop the canopy open and show you what it looks like inside. I don't think Jerry's got any bodies in here this time. So, but yeah, so give you an idea, like all leather. Like it's like getting in a Mercedes. It's awesome. And obviously you see that how it says experimental on it.
Yeah.
The same thing with Joby and ACHR and everything. All of their aircraft right now, until it gets type certification, it's going to be like this airplane. They're going to do all their testing in the experimental class until they get type certification, and then you can take that away. And then you got one of Jerry's old cars here that he
Jerry seems to have it all.
Yeah, Jerry's got it all. Yeah. So he's got this old car. I think he had this in high school. So, it was brand new then. So yeah, this is a beautiful climate controlled hangar. So it's just the ultimate man cave.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Mark.
Yeah.
Guys, welcome to EVTOL Fan Club. A little bit different to your typical EVTOL Weekly that we run every... Look, guys, we need to actually get on a proper schedule for EVTOL Weekly. We're doing it Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday. Let's settle on, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday. But do you know what? This week's been wild across the whole market. We're saying it's getting frothy right now. We were having a discussion the last day about even safe stocks like Coca-Cola. Look, they're even starting to pump. It's a weird time in the market. We can get into a few numbers, but that's not really what EVTOL Fan Club's about. We have Dylan again. Guys,
Dylan?
This genuinely is about just ask the Hustle Brothers questions. You have all four of us here. You can ask absolutely anything you want. You want to call in? You feel free to call in. I've had a bit of a wild week, So we've interviewed all them creators on Rocket Lab. Then we were on Rocket Lab Weekly last night. That was a bit of an experience, not gonna lie. I wasn't used to going live up against, I don't know, 30,000 people. But you know what? It was an experience. I was a little bit disheartened coming off of it. You get quite a bit of, I don't know, trolling. But it is what it is. We have an ASTS stream, which I didn't realize how popular it's going to be, lining up straight after this. So do you know what? It's been wild. Julie, I can see you in the comments there. Thank you for supporting us. But really, what we're here to talk about today, I was actually looking with HOVR. So Horizon, we were saying on Wednesday, they've came back into NASDAQ compliance. And I was looking at NASDAQ compliance and done a bit of a simple ChatGPT search on NASDAQ compliance and how it works. So really, if they trade below the dollar for 30 days, they get a warning. They have 180 days to fix that one and get out of the dollar zone. They then have to remain out of the dollar for 10 days consecutively. But if they fall below the dollar again, they're back in warning zone for the next 180 days.
And is
Right.
it a bit like?
Go on.
Oh, is it a bit like if you get 2 warnings, can that, or is it? Does it just keep repeating that exact same process?
I think the process repeats. Look, I don't think it's like you get a yellow card and a red card. Do you know, we'd fit well in. You could just keep pulling yellows, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we will get Brandon on again, guys. But Mark, you're quite a big investor in Horizon. Are you adding at this level? I think we're sitting at 174. I know the last day you said, did you sell a little bit of HOVR? Are you adding at this level, or are you just waiting for a pullback at the moment?
Yeah. So my history with HOVR is I was trading. I'm trading HOVR at this point just because it is a volatile stock. It has. I had to really be patient with it. I found HOVR back probably in like November, December timeframe. So I started watching it, and I got in at like 60 cents and made a quick couple, made some pretty good, just some real quick profit, and then I got out and it shot up to about 125. And when it came back down to like $1, I started buying back in, and it just kept going. And this is where it just started going down and down and down. So I had 30,000 shares when it was down at 50 cents. Like I just kept buying down, buying down, buying down. And then when it got back to 90 cents, where I had basically broken even just a few weeks ago, I offloaded 20,000 shares because I just didn't want to carry that level of risk. And then it popped all the way to 250, and I exited out at about 2, and then I've gotten back in now at about $1.60. So, I would like to start setting up a long-term position with it. But like I said, I'd like to get a little bit more information, and I'd like to see that they've got a good, that they can confirm that they've got a runway. As I said last week, or last, was it Friday when we spoke?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are to make a cake. It costs the same to make a cake. So for them to get type certification, it's probably going to be $1 billion. So they're going to start needing some investment to come in, whatever that investment is. I'm not saying that it's not there. I wouldn't be investing in it at all if I didn't believe that it's not there. So, but if I start to see that they've got, they're starting to get more traction, that's positive. It's definitely going to be positive, and I'll probably start adding a much longer term position. But if it falls back more, I'll be adding. And that's just it. If it continues to fall back, I'm going to keep adding. And if it falls below 1, I'm not going to be. I'm not overly concerned about it. I'll continue to add. So I believe in the entire space. I've been on here and I've said I think Joby's gonna make it. Archer's gonna make it. They're both gonna get to type certification. But you look at their market cap right now too. I mean, it's a pretty stiff market cap. Can you compare that to Hover? It's got the Hover's just got an enormous amount of room to fly if they can really start getting the backing. So at this point, really, I believe in the product, and I really kind of believe in their management and what Brandon brought forth on the podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and then Reece, I want to throw it to you. So when we interviewed their CEO Brandon, look, I'm going to be dead honest with all the guys. We were thinking about opening a position. We were very confident coming out of that interview. Now, Reece, hindsight is 20/20 vision. If we got in, it was an easy 5x within a month and a half. Yeah. Are you happy with the decision we made? Look, if that decision was to be made again, would we make the same decision?
I think
we were being risk adverse.
Yeah, that's basically where it comes down to. I think eVTOLs would probably be considered quite a risky space anyway, like for people that are in the S&P and stuff like that. And HOVR would be a risky stock in the eVTOL space. So like you're talking like risky squared here, where the risk is now really pushed.
I love that risky squared.
I love that too, Reece.
So that's why I would be quite. I know a few people will be looking at us investing in the likes of Joby and ACHR, and the fact that they're not making money and it's not a proven market. And at the moment, we're sort of being quite ambitious of where we think this space can go, and like believing in a vision, let's say. And then to go on top of that, then if HOVR don't have their backing and stuff like that, I just don't know if they can get there. But obviously, it's like anything. If they can do it, that amount that you would make would be substantial. But so I think if you were going to get involved and invested in there, I think it should be money that you'd be willing to lose, or basically willing to lose, really.
Chat, please let me know, are you invested in HOVR? Have you made money on HOVR? Did you sit it out when we interviewed them? Did you know about them when we interviewed them? Please let me know. Dylan, did you jump into HOVR after the interview?
Let me think back so I answer this honestly, Liam. I think I did put in a position in around 86 cents or so. I want to say whenever the price point got to around a 10 to 12% gain, and it was not a very large position. It was just a very small toe in the water at that point, just to kind of keep it on the eye, or really keep my eye on the chart and kind of see how it was tracking. But as it was going up and to the right so quickly, I just wasn't sure if it was one of the stocks that was going to have an open gap somewhere technically in the chart that it was going to need to gap down and fill. So I wanted to look closely. I wanted to look more closely at those technicals within inside of the chart as well. And yeah, I think for me, again, it's a hindsight. I learned this from my boss, hindsight 50/50, where I can look back and say that would have been the prime time. They got on the Hustle Brothers channel, and I believe in the content you guys create, and I believe in what Brandon was saying to be factually true. So it could have been a more easier decision to go ahead and start that position. But again, any gain made, I think is a positive thing to move forward with. And then when it does come back down, I think like Mark's saying as well, as long as the business fundamentals are there, that's where, again, I would take my approach in DCAing down. Again, the not financial advice, but just how I would do for my portfolio as well. In DCAing down to where I have that comfortable price, where I feel like when that pop does happen, I can either be at break even, or I've now grown a larger share position with inside of that company. And then again, can always just kind of track what I'd want to do with that as it goes forward. But you also have me thinking of HOVR, and I've thought about this for a few weeks. So I think the first time I've said it, where if we take HOVR as, we'll call it the more brand new eVTOL company to the market, comparative to, I'm just going to use the Archer and the Jobys on the timeline perspective. So maybe to give a little bit of credit to HOVR of what they've been able to do in the time span of in the time span of them being an operational company. And also, for anybody, and I'd have to look back at the chart, but more to the price point when Archer was kind of left and forgot about a year or 2 years ago, and that was really speculatively playing into a past administration, and maybe if these and a lot again on the FAA cert that was really up in the air. So I almost sometimes think of HOVR as like a baby Archer, only in the sense of a timeline, and that they just are maybe a few years further behind where Archer just started in their years. But also, if you look at Joby, who I believe was starting around 09, and you have Archer starting in 2021, it just seems like the progression in these aircrafts, again, if you have the right manufacturers, have the right teams, the right engineers, the right designers, seems like this is a project and a industry that can start to catapult a lot faster and a lot further than maybe than when we were in those days of 2009, 2010, 2011. So also the only other thing I'll add into that, and I'll throw it to the group, the chat, and also Mark, if you have any thoughts on it, where as the eVTOLs expand, how you have your United, your American Airlines, will there ever be a time where, again, as the eVTOLs grow, you'll have your Joby, you'll have your Archers, but again, HOVR being a Canadian subsidiary, it's almost like that is the eVTOL of Canada. So just kind of forward thinking into what a really scaled eVTOL market could look like as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a two-player game by no means necessary. I do genuinely, hand on heart, think it's going to be a bit like, look, even the actual aviation market at the moment. But when you look at the major passenger jets, you are sort of looking at Boeing, Airbus. Is there any other major players, Mark?
You have Embraer. Embraer builds a lot of builds regional jets. A lot of regional jets are Embraers, and Embraer is actually now getting into the eVTOL space as well. One of their, I think, is it Eve? I think Eve is Embraer.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they're now getting into this space. At one point, you had Bombardier in Canada. Bombardier actually completely designed the C series, which is now an Airbus airplane. But the story behind that is Bombardier designed the C series all the way through type certification. And then they got into a legal battle between Boeing and Bombardier in the late 2000 teens. And they were afraid that they were going to lose that legal battle. So they sold that entire they sold all of that to Airbus. And so now, now Bombardier is only in. Bombardier had a lot of financial issues. You can see in their stock price if you check it out. It really went down in that time frame, like right around COVID, pre-COVID. But Bombardier did a fantastic job of recovering, and now they only sell private jets. But on the topic of HOVR, and it's an interesting case. Bombardier used to do everything. They started out building snowmobiles, and then they built jet skis and watercraft, and they built trains, and they are the largest it was one of the largest industrial bases in Canada, and it's owned by a family. Their share price is kind of unique in the sense that this family has a minority share ownership, but the way it's structured, they always have majority voting, and that is so that and they say they'll never give that up because they do not want to be bought out or have other influence. So they're really looking out for Canada, and so that could be a case where Brandon could make an announcement, hey, we're teaming with Bombardier, and now you just have this juggernaut of an industrial base which knows how to certify, which knows, like, you could you could team together, and it would just be an absolute game changer. And I think you're going to start. I think you'll see in this space, once the whole eVTOL space starts to, it's going to get to a certain point. You're going to see M&A. You're going to start seeing companies get bought out by bigger players, just for that purpose. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent.
No, you're
but,
fine.
I know.
Oh, and just really quick, and I just hopped over to the ticker, and it doesn't mean it will always be this way. So not financial advice, but no, you're completely right, Mark, on that. And whether you look at the 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, all the way up to 5 years, Bombardier is up and to the right. So great,
Yeah.
great info on that. Thanks.
Yeah, as a company, Bombardier has done a fantastic job completely redefining their business, and it's a really good example of we have to play to our strengths, and their biggest strength was private jets. So they put everything in on private jets. They cleaned up their balance sheet, and now it's a company that's really starting to get healthy again.
Then what I want to do, I want to jump straight over to the chats. So we have Zed Stacker, Dub, need some discussion on eVTOLs. I have been watching all Brandon interviews as well all weekend. And you know what, guys? We are going to interview Brandon again. And we're not going to do it with just myself and Reece. We're going to bring the team with us. I'm quite excited to see him again. Chris, look at all those sexy faces. I'm pumped. What is an eVTOL? I'm here to troll. Changing my name to Dan Mannix. Don't get me started on him, brother. We'll just leave it there. But guys, me and Chris are going streaming a live ASTS podcast straight after this. So make sure to check that out. Zed Stacker, it's a man cave. Gorgeous airplanes. Great tour, thank you. Do you know what, guys? Show your appreciation for Mark since he's been here. Absolute great addition to the channel. And look, I think you all know who Dylan is, so show him some love too. And then Reece is just about the furniture. Is it rented or owned? They want to know that hangar.
This is all owned, privately owned. So in the United States, you can lease land on a public airport. So the lease that he has about 38 years left on it, but you can then go and build on your own. You can build, they'll give you a plot of land and you go and build a hangar on it. So I was actually involved with the build of this hangar at one point and kind of saw it through, and then Jerry bought it about a year and a half ago.
Is that risky though?
Not even a year, almost a year ago.
Do you know if you lease land for like 40 years or whatever, you don't know what the lease is going to be? I know it's a long time frame out, but they could charge you whatever you want after that, can't they?
So this is the one caveat. There is a reversionary clause. When you build a hangar on an airport, when that lease runs up, the airport has the option of taking it.
Yeah.
So it is not, do not look at it as an investment. Look at it as, I have access to a general aviation airport. I've got access to a runway. I've got access to all the services, but the government did pay, their $15 to $20 million to put this in, and you just get to use it. And when it's all said and done, the government, the local, airport authority could renew the lease and continue to do that. But that all of the leases on this airport are 20 years, have about 20 years left on them. And then this hangar was just built a few years ago. So it has about 37 to 38 years. But you do own it until then, and you can sell it.
And you can sell it.
You sell it, yeah. Truth be told, I built this hangar. I built this
hangar. But you know what we'll do?
And I sold this to Jerry last November.
Why don't we build an airport, yeah? You bang up all these hangars on it and we'll sell them to people, and then we'll just reclaim them in like 20 years' time.
So there is in the world of general aviation, in the last 2 years, I've moved back to Georgia, and you have public airports And then you have private airports. And I actually am about to buy land at a private airport where I have the option to build my own hangar and also build a home. So you basically taxi right into your house. And that you keep, for as long as you want because you own the land that it sits on. They're called air parks. You'll see them around. They're really popular in Florida and in Arizona just because those are really large general aviation flying hubs.
You'll have to give us a B&B when we're over there then.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. When you guys come over, if my house, the house that I own here, if it's currently for sale. So if anyone wants to buy a house in North Carolina, let me know. But if not, we're talking eVTOLs. But when you come over, if the house is still around, we're all gonna we'll do an eVTOL party live from the house in North Carolina.
That'd be solid.
I love it.
I'll
Then-
set up a soccer field in the backyard.
Oh, do you know what?
There you go.
We love it. Julie, big shout out to Julie.
Hey,
Julie
Julie.
follows every single one of her
Hey, Julie.
streams, so big shout out. Horizon is now my biggest share, man. Zedstack, I remember you were one of the first ones in HOVR on this channel, I think. I think it was actually, was it you that inspired us to reach out to Brandon at the time? Was it Zedstack or Reece? I can't remember.
I think it might have been. Was it Zstacker that had the 15,000 shares of it or something like that?
Yeah, it was
Him
like
and Terry both very, very early, very big into hover.
Yeah. Oh, it was.
And then Julie says, what ticker is Mark talking about in a noisy environment right now? So that was HOVR, HOVR, and that is Horizon Aircraft. I don't know, did they go under any more new Horizon Aircraft? I think it's just Horizon Aircraft because I've seen when Brandon came on us, they only called themselves Horizon Aircraft. They plan on making a full-scale vehicle next year? No.
They're in
when
the
they planned on
process.
say? That's what I'm aiming for. Thanks, Liam. No problem at all. HOVR is like 50 million market cap. Bag, my friend. How are we getting on it? Bag, you got to call into one of these one day.
Oh, 100%.
We would love to debate the eVTOL industry with you. The guy from Office said 2 years into a full-scale aircraft. I can't remember off the top of my head, not going to lie. Archer is moving fast. Archer is moving quite fast, but do you know who I think is moving faster? Is Joby, and they're doing it silently. HOVR needs good partners. At the moment, I think they need any partner. I think any partner will significantly fire the stock up.
One comment I want to make about HOVR too, though, is just recently they teamed up. They said that they're teaming with a prop manufacturer. So, and I believe it was MT Prop. So that is a big step in the right direction in terms of teaming up. Another comment I want to make too is when Brandon came on, remember, HOVR started with investors coming to him, not him going to investors. So one way we could look at HOVR is they're gonna keep getting money. And if investors come to you, they have a long-term plan. They got a long-term horizon, and they're gonna come to you. Or once you meet your milestones and you keep meeting milestones, they're going to give you your cash infusions. Perfect example is look at how right after Joby converted, there was news that Toyota executed on a large part of their 850, their tranche.
Yeah.
So obviously Brandon didn't say who his investors are or what that looks like, but that is another good indicator that they probably have a pretty strong backing. And it's just going to be a function of hitting milestones. So, but them already lining up a prop manufacturers or engine manufacturers in general aviation or in the small jet world and everything. If you don't have an engine manufacturer that's going to back you, you're never going to get anywhere because they're going to be putting in a lot of capital as well to team with you. and it's going to be the same. I bet you with Horizon, real shortly we'll see news that they have a propulsion. They're teaming with a particular motor manufacturer that's going to supply them with their motors, and you couple that with empty props. Now they have a full powertrain, and everything else is just airframe and avionics, and they're off to the races.
And then Bagger Holding comes in and says Airbus was working on an eVTOL, but said it was not going to work with current technology and gave up. I don't know how true that is. Zed Stacker loves Merck. Judy wants to know, Merck, what state are you in?
I'm currently in North Carolina, and I live down in Savannah, Georgia, and work down in Savannah, Georgia. So, Carolina's in Georgia.
And then, where you at? I think. Oh, where I am in Texas, you can live in a flight neighborhood, have your
Yes.
own hangar.
Yes, an air park. Where in
Judy, is
Texas?
that a hint to get Merck down to you, and then he can fly you around everywhere? That would be so mad, wouldn't it? Merck,
There we
if you
go.
were living over here, brother, I would be flying with you everywhere. I'd just be like
Hey.
your little sidekick.
As we discussed last Friday, when you come to the U.S., we're gonna go and just fly to the Archer facility. It's in Georgia, so we're just gonna hop in one of these airplanes, and we're just gonna go, find the skinny, see what the story is, talk to people locally, and find out if they're really scaling up or not.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, did you hear that there? We're not just going to be us four speaking here. We're going to be on the ground there. We're going to be literally in the skies above the likes of Archer Aviation's Covington, Georgia factory. We are going to be on the ground interviewing members of the public, and we'll let only your imagination go from there.
Trust but verify.
Absolutely.
I just looked for hangars for sale in Oregon. Zed Stacker, are you a pilot and all? Then, Julie, a few neighborhoods spread around Houston, and they're not expensive as you would think. I wouldn't even know the price of a hangar, Rover. Reece, do you know the price of a hangar?
Not a no clue whatsoever. That is
Dylan?
way outside.
It depends on where you live. If you're going to build a hangar here in North Carolina, it's not that bad.
Isn't that?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's less than a house, much less than a house.
We'll
I
just
was
leave
gonna lowball it at 40. I was gonna say probably up in the 100,000 easy though. Probably to get something like that up would have just been my guess if I had to guess at it.
So the steel, I'll say this: the steel for this hangar, well, the build cost for this hangar was about $200K.
Sure.
But that's climate controlled, bathroom, septic.
Yeah.
You can run a small business. You can run a mid-sized business out of a facility like that. So it's a small capital investment for what you have.
So if we bang 40K in HOVR and then just get a 5X on it, and
go do it in California, and it's going to cost you probably $300,000.
Sure.
Or more.
Sure.
So Zed Stacker said it wasn't him that suggested it to us, and he did have a large amount of shares though. Okay. Chris said, I like Brandon's interview, and HOVR was a great interview, guys. Thank you so much, brother. Why hasn't any of the players in the eVTOL shown it's possible to lift enough weight long enough to be a taxi yet? The emergency power reserve is 20 minutes for power lift. Which one of us will answer that?
Is that a regulation, 20 minutes?
Bag, come back on that.
Yeah, Bag, come back.
Yeah.
Julie, would be great. My son, it was Julie's son. Remember, Julie's son was aspiring to be the pilot.
Mm-hmm. He's 20 years old, right, Julie?
Reach out to Merck on X, and I'm sure he'd be happy enough to share experiences and all that with your son. Terry, old memory. HOVR has a lot of patents. Recall that. Do you know the actual patents off the top of your head? There's technology, Mark?
I don't. I believe they do have a patent though for their wing, how their wing transitions and and how the wing closes up, how the leading edge moves forward and exposes the vertical lift fans in both the canard and the main wing, and then how that closes up. I'm pretty sure they have a patent on that.
Hey, maybe could I ask a quick question regarding the patents? Because that was one area I was starting to do a little bit more deep diving into Archer on.
Oh, you are.
So my dumb question, I think that I know the answer to. When somebody is patenting something, that's their intellectual property. So another company is not going to be able to use that same structural design. Similar, would that be similar, Mark, in the aerospace world or aircraft world?
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Yeah, I guess kind of
Just
the general question where if any company, be it HOVR, Archer, Joby, was to have a patent, and we'll go like what you were saying on a, I'm sorry, it was a wing design, I think, for HOVR.
Mhm.
Once they secure that patent, and I think it's a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it, is that restricting any other company in the industry to use any sort of like property, be it that is now their intellectual property and design? To build a aircraft that would be anything like that,
Yeah,
true to the patent.
I think that they've got, if they're protected, their intellectual property in that design is protected. So if they've come up with a a particular wing design and that leading edge
Hmm.
opens and closes a particular way, it could be even like how the lift fans are oriented. That's, if they have got a patent on it, it's their intellectual property, and they've got a court case if someone else comes along and says they're going to develop it.
And if I could throw kind of a number two to the group. So I'm going to get these charted, but just really quick, since we're on more of the weekend live, bear with me, but there's been multiple patents for Archer Aviation. One that I'll read out, the date of patent is May 6, 2025. It was filed on 2023. So it looks like it was passed in May 6 of 25. Say system and methods for control allocation for electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, and generally the abstract that it speaks to is it's a method of controlling an aircraft, a method of controlling an electric aircraft that has plurality of actuators, that includes a plurality of electric propulsion units, includes receiving force and moment commands for electric aircraft, determining control commands and the plurality of actuators based on the desired force and moment controls by solving an optimization problem, and a lot of other stuff that I'm probably going to confuse even myself as I read it. So just if I'm reading that and into having a pattern around the actuators, is that, I don't want to say standard business procedures, because obviously the company is going to have to put patents on anything that they're developing, but would you say that that is a sign of success for Archer or the industry, or more patents that they gain under and are getting approved? And I guess for me, I was noticing, again, that actuator word coming up. So maybe if they've had a patent that might be able to, solve a problem with inside of that with the aircraft. So
What it sounds like to me is their
Mhm.
their overall powertrain. They are going to patent their overall powertrain,
Mm.
and most likely the control logic and that specific code that runs an Archer airplane, and the entire flight control systems was most likely developed in house, or if they farm that out, they own that intellectual property, and they are, which is, every company is going to own their own intellectual property on their
Sure.
powertrain. Every powertrain will be different, or will have nuances of difference. Joby obviously is a much different powertrain compared to Archer's powertrain. I saw at one point there was a Joby video where they were interviewing, and the guy held up a small box, and he said, "This is, the box that controls our actuators and runs, our powertrain." And he said it's triple redundant, which makes sense. Triple redundancy is typically what you have, but the logic inside that, and then how that whole powertrain comes together, every one of those companies will most likely patent their own, so that someone else just can't go and copy them.
Thanks.
So
Thanks,
we
Mark.
then are going into Julie. Yeah, 20 years old and has had his first solo flight.
That's awesome.
Bag. Yeah, they need 20 minutes of reserve for VFR on powered lift to be certified. Shouldn't they show it's possible to lift enough weight for at least that long?
So yeah, to answer that, I think I mean they can go into that will be a test point that they are going to have to that they're going to have to demonstrate both in company test and then when they get into TIA, that they'll demonstrate for the FAA. But that can literally just be they're going to lift off and they're going to hold a hover for 20 minutes and then they're going to come back down and okay, you've passed your test at max weight and done. They could load up, they could just put ballast in the plane that's going to simulate what their max takeoff weight will be. They'll go up, they'll hover for their 20 minutes, okay, and then they'll come back down, and you've now met that criteria.
And then Bag says, the Airbus thing is true. Search Airbus leaves eVTOL. They said it isn't possible yet. I've had a quick scan over what you're referring to. Do you know what? I think you're taking little bits here and there out of it and going with a narrative for it. Plus, we'd have to deep dive into Airbus's eVTOL technology. Are they saying it's not possible for their own eVTOL? They said they have had battery technology concerns. It doesn't mean the whole industry has a technology concern. And then looking at it, they're just saying that the market hasn't the conditions to launch a new program that are not necessarily there. So they're not saying they've put it on pause. They haven't just left the industry.
Yeah, can I speak to that for just a second as well?
Yep.
So in prior to COVID, yes, both Airbus and Boeing were developing an eVTOL concept aircraft. Boeing was doing it through Aurora Flight Sciences. Like if you Google Aurora Flight Sciences, you'll see what their airplane was. And both of those large manufacturers have kind of exited out of that space. Obviously, Boeing hit some really difficult headwinds, and they circled the wagon just to cut down on a lot of their outside design projects and whatnot. And I think Airbus did the same thing. Like these are really large OEMs, and their goal they're in a different business case. And the business case just wasn't there anymore. They threw some money at it to say, could this be part of our overall business strategy? And I know Boeing exited in probably like 2021, but they flew the Boeing eVTOL. They went and hovered, or at least they took off, hovered for a bit, and then came back down and landed. And that was done through their design subsidiary, Aurora Flight Sciences, in the DC area. But again, Boeing and Airbus, they make their focus is on large aircraft. Their focus is on 737s, 787s. Of course, Boeing right now is trying to get the 777 certified. Boeing's had headwinds, financial headwinds, and they're now coming out of it and getting. I think they're getting on a more clear path. And then, of course, they've got a defense industry element as well. My take is those large manufacturers they'll be like, all right, we'll team up with a smaller once the eVTOL space gets to a certain point. We may team up with them, but they're not going to go off and develop an eVTOL.
And then Anthony has jumped in. Anthony's one of our big HOVR investors as well. So many cities with the need or withdrawal to have eVTOL airport or vertiports but the mountainous rural countries to suit HOVR seem endless. Canada, Ireland, Japan, South America, etc.
Yeah.
Guys, so we've now established that both Dylan and Mark are now part of the Hustle Brother team. We were banging a few ideas together, looking for different video content we could do. Chat, this is your chance to jump in and have a dedicated video that you want around the eVTOL industry. Is there something you don't know? Whether it's something about the likes of Archer and Joby that either myself, Reece, and Dylan can cover. Is it something really technical? And you need like an engineer to describe. We have Mark for that. Guys, jump into the comments and let us know what type of content you want in this space. I also have another announcement, guys. This was a little bit weird. So me and Chris were talking on a live stream one day, and look, he has no problem with me saying this at all, but he was asking different investors what would they do if they started again. And then he did open up about his personal journey and his personal story. And we started a challenge. So guys, you'll remember me and Reece used to have a Road to Glory challenge. We'd do $5 a day, and we were going from $107 all the way up to 107K live. Look, me and Reece got very, very busy at the time. And we had so many projects on the horizon, and we didn't have a team in place. However, now you see we have 5 Hustle Brothers, 4 here, and you'll meet another one in the next live stream. We have started a new project. We have called it, and I know Reece found this a little bit funny because I never let him know what we were going to call it, but we called it Poor Person Investing. And it's not just dedicated at anyone that is poor. What it is, it's dedicated at people just learning to invest, people that just are struggling to invest, and they just want to watch what we do. Look, not financial advice whatsoever. I'll bring up the portfolio here. We did start at $107, myself and Reece, and we restarted the challenge at 604. So if you see, or 601. So if you see here, every time we add $5 to the account, it goes up. Now, I can't remember how we got to 601, but there was some reason there, Reece. Was it to do with a free stock we got or something? We got a free stock of Google at the start. Over the past year, what have we made? 40%, which is all right. Look, if you're in the S&P, you'd be expecting a 10%. Yeah. We do this live every day at opening bell. I'm actually considering doing it at closing bell as well. If it's something you're interested in, make sure to bang that subscribe button. But I'm not going to bang on about this too much. Guys, have you any closing thoughts today about the eVTOL industry going into next week?
Nothing from my side, I think. But I think in terms of looking down the eVTOL weekly for next week, I'm thinking of a Tuesday. I don't know how that suits with everyone else.
Tuesday's all good for me.
Tuesday works great for me.
Best day of the week for me, actually. Yeah, let's lock in Tuesdays. That would be awesome.
Perfect.
Dylan, have you any thoughts around the eVTOL space coming into this week?
Yeah, I am curious because I put a few things up on X. Last week there was no piloted flights from Archer, so curious to see if they get the 703AX back in the air this week. There was a video released by Adam towards the end of the week where he was showing what I was believing to be past footage of a VTOL lift and then current footage of his CTOL aircraft takeoffs. So curious to see if there is any videos that come out on the flights that I've seen the flight data on. And also coming into 716, also taking a look at me personally listening to the United Airlines earning call as well.
because I'm getting interested to see if they start to drop any hints on their calls as well about the future of their aviation possibilities for their customers as well. So yeah, got a few things rolling around in the head. And just as maybe a quick teaser, was speaking with somebody over the weekend that knows the gentleman who flies the S4s at Edwards. So hoping to get him on the call this week, and I can do some more deep diving with him on that.
Oh, brilliant.
Mark,
That's definitely looking forward to.
any closing thoughts on it?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Yeah. I think the entire market's kind of digesting what happened at Paris. There was a lot of great content that came out of Paris. I actually just watched a video on Beta, and I'd like to look a little bit more at Beta and what their strategy for certification is. They're going more, it looks like a CTOL variant first for type certification, and then adding on a VTOL or a CTOL, and then going to VTOL. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, just continue to watch for news of all the different companies coming out. I'm personally going to start looking at who are the different players are in the space, and if people on the chat have want us to start putting together, like, hey, let's who are the different players, and let's start setting up a matrix of how far each one of them are towards certification, and what we think their efficacy would be in terms of being successful for the different types of use cases each eVTOL will have. Or I almost think we need to start saying HEVTOL, because of course HOVR is a hybrid.
Like, the Hustle Brothers could start an official eVTOL world record organization. It doesn't exist yet. We could do.
We should. We were already talking about a trophy for like top engineers or who's successful. So yeah, we can start nominating the Hustle Brother Collier Trophy.
Well, and with that, Mark, I thought it was such a cool idea, and I'm sure we can talk more and either see if it's something that either we nominate and maybe send out to the chat, and see if it's something that it's a general community vote on who wins the award, either top CEO, top CTO, top execs, and can even go further down the line. So I think it gives the community a lot of opportunity to weigh in and continue to show who they think are the leaders in this industry. No, so I think that was a great idea, Mark.
Yeah, I can't agree more, Dylan. And I think that everyone needs to recognize too, we are all fans of this industry. We want to see this industry succeed. I myself, as an engineer, I'm not rooting for one horse or the other. I'm just happy to see the industry that I've been a part of for 20 years growing, and it's really going to change human mobility. So, but we also want to be able to call out and be able to provide our info, go and see what the different companies are stating, and then we can digest what they have to say, and then make our own opinion of, yes, are they actually being truthful, or are they just trying to or are there other challenges involved that they may have towards type certification.
Guys, give Mark and Dylan a bit of support in the chat there. They've been absolutely amazing. Guys, you really need to watch this space. We are going to grow the infrastructure around this whole eVTOL content creation sector. Mark and Dylan have some new innovation. They have, I don't know, injected a bit of life into this team. Guys, my name's Liam. I am one of the Hustle Brothers here. I have brought 3 of my other Hustle Brothers with me. We have the OG co-partner, Reece, on the right-hand side. We have our biggest Archer Bull. He's been here from day one. Dylan Rogers down bottom left corner. And then we have Mark Berry. I think he's a new fan favorite. He's a pilot. He's an aerospace engineer. Guys, until Tuesday, I'll see you then.
See you guys.
Take care, everyone.
See you guys.